Hey there guys, welcome back to AFC Game by Game. I hope you're all doing really well. First and foremost, just want to say before I get into the gist of this video that it's non-Arsenal related, hence why I want to get it over with very briefly. But I have just released a documentary similarly to the Arsenal Stagnating Giant one that I did back in March, which was unbelievably 4 months ago now. It's gone really quickly, but I did another documentary similar style to that, where I looked at the career of former professional footballer Leon Constantine. I know that a lot of you probably aren't aware of him, but he played in the lower leagues of English football, a man that grew up in a deprived part of Hackney and went on to make it at clubs such as Leeds, played for Leeds a handful of times, also played the majority of his career at Port Vale, but journeyed across the country, played for some fantastic clubs, and now he's setting up an academy to help guide the next generation of footballers. The idea of this academy is that it helps to offer a qualification for people that have just come out of school or aren't sure whether they want to go to university. It's a project that I had so much fun working on. I got to interview the likes of Steve Claridge, Fabian Delph, Robert Snodgrass, as well as Leon himself. So a fantastic experience for me, and I'd be incredibly grateful if you could all just take a look at that. I'll put that in the description box below. But as well as that, last night I spoke with Lee Judges and Craig of the Same Old Arsenal podcast. Absolutely fantastic experience talking to them. It's something that I'm very familiar doing now, these podcasts, but I don't know, there was something special about last night's one. It was great to chat with two very knowledgeable Arsenal fans, talking about everything that I'm pretty much going to recap on in this video. The Alexis Sanchez situation, the two friendly games, a look ahead to this tour in China. Very exciting times really, and well, very exciting, very nerve-wracking times when it comes to the curious case of Alexis Sanchez. But I suppose that's where I should really start this video. He's the name on everybody's lips at the minute, but to be frank, as everyone is, I'm pretty sick of talking about him. It seemed to die down not too long ago, but then Alexis Sanchez came out the other day when he went back to his hometown of Topokila. I have no idea if I've said that right, I probably haven't, but when he went back to Chile, I'll keep it as Chile, he was quizzed on whether he'll be remaining at Arsenal, as you would expect him to be every time he goes into a press conference now, and he gave the answer that he wants to play Champions League football. He didn't imply whether that would be this coming season or not, and he did say for now I am at Arsenal. But from what I gathered from what he said there, he did quite make it clear that he wants to play in the Champions League. In fact, he made that abundantly clear. It's just a case of, does that mean he wants to get back into the Champions League with Arsenal, or does that mean that he wants to move on to a Champions League club now, because it's, as he said, his dream to go and do that. Now, it's a bit of an odd one, because going to Manchester City, where he seems to be rumoured to be going, are they a team that's going to win the Champions League this coming season? Now, don't get me wrong, it's a very exciting project. Gabriel Jesus, Kevin De Bruyne, Sergio Aguero, absolutely brilliant players, and Pep Guardiola is building something very exciting. But let's not forget, this City team still have weaknesses. They brought in Kyle Walker, they look to be bringing in Benjamin Mendy, but is that going to really resolve what was a very shaky defence last season? We'll have to wait and see on that one. Vincent Kompany seems to be out injured. John Stones never found his feet last season. I don't think this is a City team that next season is going to win the Champions League, and I don't think a lot of City fans can say hand on heart they think they'll win the Champions League. So whether Alexis Sanchez thinks he can do it at City, I don't know. I think that's a bit of a quizzical one. I don't think he'd be able to do it in his first season there, surely. So maybe he's got a better chance staying at Arsenal. I mean, it's a difficult one on that note. But the team that he would have, had a very good chance of winning the Champions League with was certainly Bayern Munich, who pulled out of the deal to buy him because they were put off by not only his wages but the fee we were demanding as well. They've gone on to sign James Rodriguez, building a very exciting team there. But Alexis Sanchez does seem to be a player that is causing quite a travesty at Arsenal at the minute. Arsene Wenger came out and brought out totally contrasting quotes to what Alexis said, and he came out by saying he'd had very positive talks with Alexis. He expects him to come back on the 30th of July, report for pre-season, and he could even be ready for that game against Leicester City on the opening day. So I don't know what to believe. As I said on the podcast last night, it all feels very Van Persie-esque to me. We've seen Arsene Wenger come out with these quotes before with regards to the likes of Frances Fabregas, Samir Nasri, Robin Van Persie, saying that the player will remain on at the club, but I don't know if I can believe those words. You would hope if Arsenal really have turned a corner this season with regards to the backroom staff and the policy that we have with selling players, then we would stay true to Arsene Wenger's word, and we should remain adamant that Alexis Sanchez can't be sold to a Premier League rival, because that will be a massive backward step for Arsenal. I've said it multiple times this season, but if he is to go to City, then all the good work we've done over the past couple of years will be unravelled, and this club will be, even if we do bring in Lamar, who David Ormsey has come out today and said he's looking like an unlikely transfer now. I'm not too sure what to believe with regards to that. If we do bring in Lamar, then you know, I'm not too. I still think that's a downward step. Lamar, 21 years of age, had a very good season with Monaco, but still hasn't been tested at the top level in the Premier League. So, you know, he's a player that you would assume will develop, and I think he will turn into an absolute quality player. Don't get me wrong, I definitely want him at the club, but I want him to be in this team and learn off someone such as Alexis Sanchez. The team we could build with the likes of Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez, Lacazette, and potentially Lamar in our forward line, it's mouth-watering. It's an incredibly exciting prospect. I hope Alexis can be a part of that. The project at City is exciting. The project at Arsenal is equally as exciting. The only thing that would be playing on my mind if I was Alexis Sanchez would be the mentality of this club. And if the club seriously has gone about changing its mentality, then, you know, put their foot down and keep Alexis Sanchez. That's how we go about doing this sort of thing from now on. We don't need 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 million for him. We're not in that position anymore. We shouldn't be seen as a selling club. On the flip side, and I know this is taking up far too much of the conversation at the minute, but do we want to keep a player that's unhappy at the club? I'm not too sure we do, but do we want to send him to a Premier League rival and strengthen that team? We can't do that either. It's a very difficult one. My personal hope is that he'll be professional. I don't think he'll sign a contract this summer. I think that he'll see how Arsenal do. As much as I don't want this to play out into next season, sadly I think it will. I think he'll see how Arsenal are doing in the Europa League, in the Premier League. If we're doing well, then maybe he'll sign on and we'll get to see a few more years of Alexis Sanchez. But if not, then he'll be leaving on a free. He'll be negotiating with the likes of Manchester City in January, and it's not something I'm looking forward to particularly. But he's coming up to 29 now. He'll be 30 next season. He's not getting any younger. If he does want to win the Champions League, then, you know, as I say, I don't think he'll win it next season with City. It's going to be a process that will take a couple of years. He's already taken a downward step coming from Barcelona, a team where you would have thought he was destined to win the Champions League. So it's a bit of, you know, the mind of Alexis Sanchez really does puzzle me at times. But anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about some positive news regarding Arsenal. Reiss Nelson, what a player we've got on our hands there. 17 years of age. Joe Willock as well, looks absolute class. Eddie Nketiah looks absolutely brilliant. Maitland-Niles, Christian Bielik. Our youth looks tremendous, and I'm incredibly excited to see how these players will be blooded into the squad at next season. We've got some fantastic prospects coming through, and I just hope that we give them the chances they deserve. One thing we didn't do right last season was play the youth players. Rob Holding being one of them should have played a lot more last season. Was an absolute revelation in that back three, and for me, we've got to be playing the likes of Reiss Nelson because they've got so much to offer the club, and they are an alternative option to the likes of Theo Walker when maybe they're out of form. These are young players, hungry players that have got points to prove, and you know, there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be getting matches in the Europa League now we're in that competition, getting matches in the League Cup and the FA Cup when it comes to it in the new year. So very exciting on that front. 2-0 win against Sydney FC. Lacazette scoring his first goal, brilliant stuff. He looks to be slotting into this team absolutely perfectly, and in that game where we beat Western Sydney Wanderers 3-1, he looks really good in that. Giroud scoring a brilliant goal. Just Lacazette's all-round link-up play in that game. Although he was fairly quiet, he held the ball up well. He provided a pre-assist for the first goal. He looks like a player that is going to slot in so well in this Arsenal team. Whether he plays in the two behind the striker, I would hope he plays as the out-and-out centre forward, but a great player we've got on our hands here. A player that I think is going to get easily 20 plus goals next season, hopefully 25 to 30, and I just can't wait to see him in in that Community Shield game really against Chelsea. Really excited to see how he'll bed into the team this season. But as well as that, a lot of players that have been touted to be going out of the club this coming week. Jim White's reporting that we've agreed a deal with Juventus, 12 million for the transfer of Wojciech Szczesny. The sooner this gets done, the better really. It's been going on for far too long now. As much as I'd like to see Szczesny try again at the club, it's simply not going to happen, and a transfer to Juventus for £12 million probably wouldn't be the worst bit of business for us at the minute. But with goalkeepers going for ridiculous fees nowadays, I reckon we could get in excess of 20 plus million for him. But then again, he does come with that baggage, that attitude that he's got, which I think he's shifted at Roma now. But 12 million, not a horrendous deal. I hope we get that over the line as soon as possible. The same goes for Debuchy, who is apparently having a medical in Nice in the next 48 hours. The sooner that guy gets out of the club, the better. Carl Jenkinson, Kieran Gibbs, these players are rumoured to be leaving the club ASAP. I do feel really bad for Gibbs. Anyone criticising him, anyone being unnecessarily harsh towards him, it's ridiculous. Stop it. There's absolutely no need to do that whatsoever. You're making yourself look a mug. A guy that's played, done an absolute wonderful service to Arsenal in his time in the club, slotted in really well when Gaël Clichy left, and he's a player that deserves first team football. If he's playing week in, week out for a club like West Brom, Newcastle, and he does well, then there's no reason why he couldn't be in contention for a left back spot in the World Cup in a year's time. So, and you know, that might sound ridiculous, but to me, he is a quality player and could be pushing for the England team if he does get his head down, remains injury free, and gets consistent football. Unfortunately for him at Arsenal, we've now brought in Kolasinac, who's been phenomenal during his pre-season games. Monreal as well, playing some fantastic football. So, exciting times, but not so great news for Kieran Gibbs, who does seem to be leaving the club. Another player that seems to be leaving, which I really hope doesn't come to fruition, is Callum Chambers, reportedly going to Crystal Palace for 20 million. Now, 20 million for Chambers would be a profit on what we initially bought him for, about 15, 16 million. So, you know, it's a marginal profit, but again, Arsenal might be looking at that as a good, shrewd bit of business. I hope that we don't get rid of him, because 22 years old for a centre-half is no age whatsoever. He's 10 years younger than Laurent Koscielny. Koscielny didn't develop into his mid to late 20s. I think it could well be a similar case with Callum Chambers. Had a successful spell at Middlesbrough, even though they did get relegated. Had a very good tournament with England over the summer, and I hope he comes back into this Arsenal team and he's tested in this back three formation, because I think at right centre-back he can prove to be a very versatile option. The same goes for Rob Holding, who can play anywhere across that back three. I think, you know, Callum Chambers would not be someone I'd be looking to get rid of. You know, we haven't got a plethora of centre-halves. We've got Per Mertesacker, who's going to be leaving at the end of the season. We've got Gabriel, who seems to be getting injured a bit more, and he's not really a first-team player. Laurent Koscielny coming up to 32. Again, we need to have centre-halves in the squad. Apparently, we're going in for Virgil van Dijk. I'm not sure how reliable that is, but then you could understand why Chambers leaves if we do get Virgil van Dijk. But I can't see that being a realistic transfer anytime soon. Our next couple of games are, of course, Chelsea and Bayern Munich in Shanghai. Games that, you know, should be exciting, coming up against tougher opposition. Get to see some more of the younger players. Really looking forward to that, and a good chance to really test Chelsea's team before that Community Shield game next month. So, exciting times, and yeah, I mean, the biggest plus point for me is these young players. Reece Nelson really excites me. Bielik is looking, you know, he's growing into his body that bit more. He looks like a real dominant force at centre-half, and generally exciting times for Arsenal. I mean, I haven't been this excited going into a season in quite some time. That prospect of Ozil, Alexis and Lacazette really does get me excited, but I just hope we're able to keep Alexis. I hope that he stops talking about his future, because I think it's doing him more harm than good at the minute. And I hope Arsenal are able to get something resolved ASAP. Also, Oxlade-Chamberlain's been brilliant this pre-season. I don't think anyone's mentioned that quite enough just yet. But again, it all comes down to that first game of the season. We've got to be prepared. We've got to be mentally in the right state of mind, and we've got to be getting a convincing win against Leicester. Before that, winning the Community Shield, I think will be quite imperative to a good start. So basically, just to wrap up, please do give my documentary a watch. I'll leave the link to that in the description box below as well. Check out the Same Old Arsenal podcast. I'll leave a link to that as well in the description, and subscribe to the channel for more regular content. Got some very exciting stuff coming up with Cannon Chat over the next week or so. Really looking forward to doing a few more of those with Woz and Rob, and hopefully a few more other guests. It really is looking like a little exciting project, and be sure to follow the Twitter as well. Again, I'll leave the link to that in the description box below. But thank you for watching this, guys. Please do drop a like on the video. Let me know your thoughts about Arsenal at this moment in time, and as always, I'll be speaking to you very, very soon.